I always believed marriage was built on compromise, understanding, and most importantly, respect. But that belief began to shatter the day Kola asked me to pack my things. We had been married for just under a year, and although Kola wasn't perfect, I loved him. I excused his distant moods, his long silences, and his tendency to defer everything to his mother. I had grown up in Wari, where mothers-in-law were known to be territorial, but I never thought it would reach my home. It started subtly. Kola would refer to Mommy in every major decision. He'd say things like, "Let me ask Mommy first," or "Mommy wouldn't like that." At first, I laughed it off. I even found it sweet how devoted he was to his mother. Until devotion became obsession. One rainy evening, as I stirred egusi soup in the kitchen, Kola walked in, avoiding my gaze. His tone was low, almost apologetic. "Bimbo, Mommy is coming to stay with us for a while. Maybe 3 or 4 months." "Oh, that's nice," I said, turning to smile at him. "We'll make the guest room nice and cozy." He cleared his throat. "Actually, she wants her old room back." My stirring hand paused. "Her old room?" "Yes. The one you and I are using now. That used to be hers when she lived here. She said it's filled with her memories and it brings her peace." "Kola," I said carefully, "that's our bedroom now. Where am I supposed to stay?" "There's the boys' room. Or you can use the guest room. I'll move in there too once she's settled." The betrayal was swift and casual, like I was merely a guest in my own marriage. My hands trembled, but I nodded slowly. I didn't want to cause a scene. Not yet. But inside, something cracked. That night, I sat awake, staring at the ceiling fan rotating above me. The wind was loud against the windows, whispering things I didn't want to hear. I thought of the sacrifices I had made, quitting my job to support his business, moving to his side of Lagos, away from my friends and family, learning how to cook the exact way his mother liked her stew. All of it, just to be relocated like a stranger. No. Not like this. By morning, I had packed my things. But not to leave the house. Instead, I moved into her old bedroom. Not the one we shared. The one locked at the end of the hallway, the dusty, forgotten room Kola refused to let the house help enter. The one I was told to never step into. The room had not been opened in years. Dust blanketed everything like snow. A scent of camphor, old perfume, and something less pleasant hung in the air. Still, I pushed the creaking door open and dragged in my box. Kola came home that evening and found me folding my clothes inside. He stood at the door, frozen. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "I moved into your mother's old room," I replied calmly. "She'll be more comfortable in the master." He hesitated, then walked away, mumbling something I couldn't hear. I didn't care. Let him explain it to his mommy. That night, I lay on the narrow bed, cocooned in her floral bedsheets, staring at the ceiling. That was when I noticed the odd discoloration above, something like water damage, except it had a reddish tint. Almost like dried blood. I shook the thought away. My mind was playing tricks. But that was just the beginning. The next day, while arranging the wardrobe, I found something strange wedged between old books and fabric, a diary. Its pages were worn and yellowed, written in looping cursive handwriting. Curious, I flipped to a random page. January 12th. Kola screamed at me again today. He doesn't remember what he does when he's angry. He forgets the shaking, the hitting. But I remember. I always remember. My hands trembled. I flipped further. February 6th. He says it's love. That when he hurts me, it's because I make him do it. I believe him. I must. If not, then what's the point of all this? My throat tightened. These weren't the writings of the cheerful, sharp-tongued woman I'd met briefly at our wedding. This voice was different, broken, scared. Another entry caught my eye. March 20th. He told me to move out. That he couldn't bear to look at me. So I moved into this room. I can't breathe in here. The walls are too tight. The memories too loud. My heart stopped. Was she talking about Kola? I read on, faster now. The entries became more frantic, more fragmented. There were mentions of shadows, whispers at night, and dreams she couldn't escape. The last entry chilled me. April 3rd. If anyone reads this, know that I tried. I tried to be the wife he wanted. The mother he needed. But Kola was never whole. And neither am I now. That night, I barely slept. I lay in that bed, clutching the diary to my chest, feeling the weight of a truth no one had told me. Something had happened in this house. Something terrible. The following day, his mother arrived. She walked in with the confidence of a queen reclaiming her palace. She took one look at me emerging from her old bedroom and froze. "You're in my room," she said coldly. "I figured it would be fitting," I said. "You wanted your old space. Now you have it." She looked at Kola sharply, but he avoided her gaze. That night, I overheard them arguing. "Why did you let her in there?" she snapped. "She insisted," he said. "What was I supposed to do? Lock it. That room is not for living in." Her voice was filled with fear, not anger. I leaned closer to the door. "You know what happened in there," she hissed. "You remember what you did. Keep your voice down." Kola barked. "She doesn't know anything." But I did. Or at least, I knew enough. Strange things started happening after that. At night, I heard scratching at the walls. The air turned cold, even when the fan was off. I saw things in the mirror, shadows behind me that disappeared when I turned. And once, I woke up to find the diary open on my chest, even though I had locked it away in my drawer. I wasn't sure if the house was haunted, or if guilt was just thick in the air, too heavy to ignore. But I had a plan. 3 days later, I invited my pastor and 2 prayer warriors to the house under the pretense of blessing our home. We gathered in the hallway, and I led them straight to the forbidden room. His mother paled. "What are you doing?" I didn't respond. I just unlocked the door and let them in. As the pastor began to pray, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew thick, heavy. The lamp flickered. And then she screamed. His mother collapsed onto her knees, sobbing. "I'm sorry," she wailed. "We thought she was dead, we didn't know she'd leave behind this." She was talking about someone. But who? Kola looked panicked, angry, afraid. "What are you doing?" he shouted at me. But I stood still. Then the pastor spoke quietly. "There is pain here. Pain that has soaked into the walls. This room holds secrets. Dark ones." After that night, everything unraveled. Kola stopped speaking to me. His mother refused to eat, muttering to herself and avoiding the bedroom entirely. Eventually, she left the house in the middle of the night, never to return. And Kola. He changed. He started sleeping on the couch. He avoided my eyes. The arrogance disappeared, replaced by something hollow. One night, I sat beside him and asked quietly, who was she? He didn't answer. But I already knew. The woman in the diary wasn't his mother. She was his first wife. The one no one ever spoke of. The one who had supposedly run away. But she hadn't. She had been pushed emotionally, mentally, until she couldn't stay. I didn't leave Kola immediately. I waited. I watched. And one day, I packed my bags, not in anger, but in peace. Because I had something he would never have again. Clarity. Sometimes, the past doesn't stay buried not because of ghosts, but because of guilt. Some houses are built on pain, and some marriages are foundations of silence. I moved into her old bedroom not out of spite, but to uncover a truth I was never supposed to find. And in doing so, I found myself. The day I left Cola's house was silent, eerily so. No shouting, no apologies, no begging. He just stood there in the corridor as I wheeled out my suitcase, a man surrounded by the weight of his own secrets. His eyes, once arrogant and sure, now looked dim, tired, and hollow. I moved in with my elder cousin, Tolu, in Suralia. She welcomed me with warm arms and hot amla, but she didn't press for details. She only said, "When you're ready, I'm here." But I wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. Because something wasn't finished. I kept the diary. I kept it because it was no longer just a relic from a broken woman's life. It was evidence. Clues. Trauma wrapped in ink. It had opened a door in my heart and mind I couldn't close. I found myself reading it late at night, tracing the handwriting like I was holding her hand across time. Her name was Tiniola. Cola never once mentioned her name. She had loved him once, fiercely. In the pages, she described a man who could be warm and loving one moment, then cruel and cold the next. A man who used silence as a blade, who made her feel like the walls were the only things that listened. Her last entries became shorter. Chappy. As if she didn't have the strength to write complete thoughts. But one phrase haunted me. He told me to move out. So I moved into the room he fears the most. It wasn't just poetic. It was specific. Which meant there was more. Something even deeper than the diary had revealed. 3 weeks after leaving Cola's house, I got a call. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello. A woman's voice crackled through the line. You don't know me, but I know who you are. You're Cola's second wife. I was her friend. Tinyola's. My heart skipped. She always said if anything ever happened to her, someone had to know the truth. Can we meet? We met at a small cafe in Yaba. Her name was Clara. Short, soft-spoken, but with sharp, pained eyes. She wasted no time. She didn't run away, you know. That was what they told everyone. That she packed up and left one night. But she didn't. I know she didn't. Clara told me about Tenny's final days, how she had become withdrawn, paranoid. How she had spoken of a presence in that house. How she felt watched. How she was afraid of Cola's mother. There were bruises, Clara said quietly. But she always had an excuse. Always said it was an accident or that she fell down. Tears welled up in my eyes. Why didn't anyone say anything? Because the family made it disappear, Clara said. No police report. No funeral. Just gone. And the room? I whispered. She looked at me sharply. You stayed in that room? I nodded. I warned her not to. Tenny said it was like the walls were alive. Like the air in there carried every argument, every scream. Like she could hear her own sorrow echo back at her. A chill crawled down my spine. But Bimbo, Clara continued, leaning in, Tenny didn't just vanish. The night she disappeared, a neighbor said they heard glass breaking. And a scream. A woman's scream. I remembered the discoloration on the ceiling. The reddish stain. Like dried blood. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at my ceiling in my cousin's apartment, heart pounding. I was consumed by questions that wouldn't let go. Where was Tenny's body? Did Kola do something? Did his mother help? I knew I couldn't rest until I found answers. So I called someone I never thought I would. Pastor Say, the man who led the prayers in that room. I asked him to meet me. I needed more than prayers now. I needed truth. When we met, I didn't hold back. Pastor, tell me honestly. That night in the room, what did you feel? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I felt a spirit that was trapped. Not demonic. Human. Pained. It wasn't haunting the house to hurt, it was crying. Begging to be seen. I looked him in the eyes. Do you think she died in that room? His silence was all the answer I needed. Armed with this, I contacted a journalist friend, Ijeoma, who worked in human rights and investigative reporting. I told her everything. Showed her the diary. Told her about Clara. About the stain. About the fear. She looked at me with a mixture of sorrow and urgency. This is big, Bimbo. But it'll take more than a diary to uncover the truth. We need proof. I'll go back in, I said. She blinked. What? I'll go back to the house. I didn't tell Kola. Instead, I contacted his mother's former housemaid, Nkechi, a woman who had worked there over a decade. I found her through Facebook and begged her to meet me. She did, reluctantly. Madam Bimbo, that house is cursed, she said. Nkechi, did you ever see anything? Hear anything? She shifted in her seat. I saw Madam Tenny crying many times. Locked in that room for hours. Sometimes days. One time. I saw blood. Kola's mother made me clean it before anyone came. My stomach twisted. Where? The wardrobe. Underneath. There was a broken floor tile there. She said, clean it well before the police see. But police never came. That was it. I had my clue. I returned to the house a week later with a camera hidden in my bag, Ijeoma waiting outside in a car, and a fire burning in my chest. The house was strangely quiet. Kola opened the door with tired eyes. Why are you here? I just want to collect a few things. You never gave me back my documents. He let me in. And I walked straight to the bedroom. The forbidden room. The room that knew too much. I opened the wardrobe. Tore back the old rug. And found it. A missing floor tile. A cavity in the ground. Inside it, a small box wrapped in plastic stained with what looked like dried blood. I took it. Walked out of the house without a word. As I crossed the compound, I saw Kola watching from the balcony. For a brief moment, I saw fear etched across his face. And then I knew. He remembered. The box felt heavier than it should have, not in weight but in meaning. I sat in Ijeoma's car, holding it between my knees like a ticking time bomb. We didn't open it until we reached her apartment, a place far removed from Kola, his family, and the haunted house they lived in. She laid out gloves and a camera, prepared like a crime scene investigator. I wasn't sure what we expected to find, but what we uncovered shattered any remaining doubts I had. Inside were 3 items. A faded photograph of Tiniola, her eyes bright, her arms around Kola in a rare moment of captured joy. A tattered, blood-stained scarf. And a crumpled piece of paper, written in a different hand than the diary entries. It read, "If anything happens to me, this is where I was." He said I was crazy. Maybe I am. But I know what I had. I know what I saw. If my body disappears, tell my mother I loved her. Tell Clara I forgave her. And tell him he didn't win. The house keeps secrets, but I refused to be one. The air in the room turned still. Ijeoma looked at me and whispered, "This isn't just a domestic tragedy, Bimbo. This is a buried crime." The next few days blurred into a frenzy of action. Ijeoma contacted her editor. The box, the diary, Clara's testimony, Nkechi's confession, it was all submitted to a media legal team to verify and protect us. Within a week, the bombshell story broke. The room that remembered her diary reveals truth about missing wife in Lekki home. The article didn't name Kola directly, but everyone who knew us knew. The photo of the house. The redacted image of the diary. The reference to Tiniola's disappearance. And the stains in that room. Social media exploded. Hashtags like #JusticeForTeni trended. People began digging into Kola's background, finding inconsistencies. Old classmates recalled how he once nearly beat up a lecturer during university. A former girlfriend posted anonymous confessions of being emotionally manipulated and locked inside his flat for hours. Kola tried to call me. Dozens of times. I blocked him. His mother sent me a message through her church pastor. "You're trying to destroy our family. God will judge you." I didn't respond. Because I wasn't destroying anything. I was unearthing what they tried to bury. One morning, there was a knock on my cousin's door. 2 officers stood outside. "Are you Bimbo Adeyemi?" I nodded slowly. "We'd like you to come with us. We have questions about a missing persons case from 6 years ago." The investigation had officially begun. Sitting inside the CID's office, I retold everything, from the first moment Kola asked me to move out, to the diary, to the floor tile, to the box. I handed over all physical evidence and every piece of communication I had. It took hours. When I was done, the officer leaned back and sighed. "You know, people like him, they rely on silence. On women like you never speaking. You just broke that cycle." Clara was brought in for questioning. So was Nkechi. They all cooperated. And then Kola was picked up. He denied everything. He said I planted the box. Said I was bitter. Said I was trying to ruin him. But the more he spoke, the more the investigators saw the cracks. His rage. His lack of remorse. His conflicting statements. Then came the forensics report. The scarf tested positive for Tiniola's blood. Her DNA matched that of a hospital sample from years ago. The stain on the wardrobe floor. Also her blood. He was arrested. The trial drew attention across the country. Media vans lined up outside the court. Domestic abuse NGOs showed up with placards. Every time I entered the courtroom, I felt hundreds of eyes on me. Some sympathetic. Some skeptical. Kola's defense team painted me as vindictive, a bitter wife abandoned for his mother. But the evidence was overwhelming. The diary. The testimonies. The blood. The lies. When Clara took the stand and described the fear in Tenny's voice, the shaking, the bruises, the night she vanished, the room fell silent. Then came Nkechi, her voice trembling as she admitted to scrubbing blood while Kola and his mother drank tea in the kitchen. It took only 2 weeks for the jury to deliberate. Kola was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter and evidence tampering. His sentence: 24 years in prison. His mother was fined for obstruction and perjury, but due to her age, avoided jail time. Outside the courtroom, the journalist asked me, "Bimbo, do you feel justice was served?" I paused. "Yes," I said. "But justice won't bring Tenny back. It won't erase her pain. It won't give her mother closure. But maybe," I added, voice firm, "it'll stop another woman from becoming a memory in a locked room." Weeks later, I visited a small town near Abeokuta, Tiniola's hometown. Clara had arranged a private memorial. Just 5 of us, her childhood friends, the pastor, and I, stood under a mango tree as we read the last words from her diary out loud. I left the original diary with her mother, wrapped gently in white linen. She cried for a long time, holding it close to her chest. Then she looked at me and said, "You gave me back my daughter. Even in death." Back in Lagos, I started therapy. Not just to heal, but to understand. Why I tolerated being pushed out of my own marriage. Why I stayed silent so long. Why so many women do. My therapist said something that stuck with me. You didn't fail. You survived. And now, you've helped someone who couldn't. I knew then, this story wasn't about revenge. It was about remembrance. A year has passed. The house still stands. Same red roof. Same gated fence. But something inside it has changed forever. It's no longer Kola's kingdom. It's now sealed and a government notice pending repossession. A place too soaked in grief to be anyone's home. I drove past it once. I didn't stop. Just looked. The curtains in that room fluttered slightly, and for a second, I imagined Tiniola standing there watching me. Smiling. Maybe it was in my mind. Or maybe some echoes never leave. My life has taken on a new rhythm since the trial. I moved into a quiet apartment in Victoria Island, small but filled with light. I hung up soft-colored curtains, filled the walls with art, and created a tiny reading nook where I sometimes sit with a cup of zobo and journal what I feel. Therapy became my sanctuary. I stopped blaming myself. Stopped replaying conversations wondering what I could have done differently. Started understanding that silence in a marriage is not peace, sometimes it's oppression. And I started writing. Not just journaling. But telling her story. Tiniola's. Mine. Ours. Ijeoma helped me turn the story into a documentary, titled The Bedroom That Spoke, One Woman's Truth, Another's Ghost. It aired across local stations and on YouTube, quickly going viral. The documentary showed parts of the diary, the hidden box, Clara's interview, then my testimony. Women from across Nigeria began reaching out. Some anonymous. Some tearful. Some simply saying, "Thank you for speaking." A girl from Ibadan messaged me. "You made me leave before it was too late." Another from Jos wrote, "I've been in that room, too. Not physically, but emotionally." The bedroom became more than just a space, it became a metaphor. A place where women go when they've been made small. When they are told to be silent. When the world stops hearing them. And now, that room had finally spoken. Kola's sentencing created a ripple effect. A statewide investigation was launched into missing domestic abuse cases over the past 10 years. Legislators began pushing for a new bill, tennis law, advocating for mandatory reporting of physical abuse signs by domestic staff, and mental health screening for domestic violence survivors. Tiniola's name, once whispered in sorrow, was now spoken with strength. Her mother called me one evening. She was planting a tree in her daughter's memory. She asked me to come. We met under a baobab tree behind her church. A tiny, white plaque had been placed in the soil. Tiniola Adebeo, loved. Lost. Never forgotten. She held my hand and said she found her way home. Through you. I broke down. Because she was right. One day, I received an official letter. From prison. Kola had written to me. I hesitated to read it. But curiosity outweighed caution. It was short. You took everything from me. But sometimes, at night, I still hear her voice. Not yours. Hers. The walls whisper. I should have torn them down long ago. Now, they're all I have. He signed it with just his initials. I didn't write back. Some stories don't deserve sequels. I've started something new now. A women's foundation, the room she left. We provide temporary housing and therapy for women fleeing abusive marriages. A place where no one is forced to move out because someone's mother is coming. Where no one is asked to shrink, to disappear, to bury their voices. The first safe home opened in Ibadan. The second one is coming to Port Harcourt. We named the rooms after real women whose stories were silenced too soon. The largest room is called Tennis Room. It has lavender curtains, an old bookshelf, and a large mirror. So no woman forgets who she is. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I had simply obeyed. If I had packed my bag and left, quietly. If I hadn't entered that room. If I hadn't opened that diary. Would Tiniola be gone forever? Would Kola still walk free? Would I still be locked in a marriage pretending silence was love? But I did enter that room. And I came out transformed. Not just for her. But for every woman who's ever been told to move aside. To move out. To make space for someone else's dominance. That room is empty now. But I'm not. It taught me that healing isn't linear. That justice is slow but possible. And that sometimes, you don't need to scream to be heard, you just need to tell the truth and stand in it. So to the woman listening to this now, who's unsure if her voice matters, let me tell you. It does. You do. And no one, no matter who they are, gets to silence you.